Professor SUMIOKA's University Standard Philosophy course. Hi everyone! Professor SUMIOKA, how should we round the zoo of philosophy?
The most important thing is to know the diversity. If you stay in front of one beast, it will eat your head.
Wow, dangerous!
Regarding the order of tours, some discuss each major philosophical issue, such as the self, the world, and God. Some divide it into West and East, ancient and modern, rationalism and empiricism, etc., and examine them with comparison.
Then, how are we going?
We will follow it in chronological order, from old ideas to new ones. That may be easier for beginners, because the older ones are simpler, and more accessible. Moreover, some new ones are built based on old ones, or by denying them. So, if we do not know the old ones, it is often difficult to understand the new ones.
Philosophy is made by the historical integration.
Nay, it comes forward and backward, with innovations and restorations. Newer isn't necessarily better than older, just like cooking. Traditional meals are attractive too. So, we will start today, with the story of the birth of philosophy. Are you thinking about something, when you walk?
Well, maybe about sweets for tea time.
Nah, are you thinking about how to walk?
Oh, pardon, but we can walk without thinking.
Exactly. Walking, eating, doing routine tasks such as housework, and so on, can be done without thinking.
True, I sometimes tell people I'm now thinking, but at times like that, my mind is rather empty.
Most of our actions are repetitive and habitual, so we are in fact thinking about nothing.
If we think about what we are doing, it may rather make us unable to do it.
Thinking is another big task, that is separate from doing. But how about when we do something we're not used to doing? We imagine everything in our heads, write the obscure drafts down, and do trial and error. It is our real thinking.
It's like a child's pretend play.
However, by doing such things, we gradually find what to do. When we understand it perfectly, we do not need to think more.
Then, it is enough for us to know what to do, even without thinking, right?
Therefore, we human beings invent more speedy ways to know it. It's learning from others. Without thinking, we only have to hear an explanation.
Sure, it's fast and easy.
But here's something strange, a story works enough as an explanation, if it makes people do what they should do.
In other words, it means an explanation doesn't necessarily have to be true, does it?
For example, a proverb serves as a helpful guide in our lives, whether it is true or false, doesn't it?
Yeah, I have often heard since childhood that the early bird gets the worm, but I don't know whether that is true. However, just because I haven't gotten up early and seen such a bird.
Parables are convincing, using concrete examples. Similarly, to explain the world, and make people do what they should, we created myths, from the parables of our real society. For instance, it said, a mighty God exists as the King of Heaven, and saves the good, and punishes the wicked, without any oversight.
It explains why the world is so, and why we should do so.
However, as long as a myth was a parable, it was similar to themselves. The Egyptians worshipped gods like the Egyptians, while the Indians prayed to gods like the Indians.
Is philosophy also a parable like a myth?
No, philosophy was instead born out of the failure of myths. Ancient Greece was established by conquering peoples. They enslaved the natives, and lived a life of luxury. To explain the world, they also made myths, but their gods were similar to them, lazy, selfish, and in conflict with each other.
What useless gods?
But their gods had a reason. They were also ruled by fate, Moira. Like the common ancient Greeks, they could not do anything they liked. Therefore, even when the ancient Greeks prayed to the gods for help, the gods were unreliable, they still had to manage things for themselves.
However, we have so many things to do every day.
Around 600 BC, a wise Greek, Thales, found that we are so busy because we pay attention to every branch. But they are just results of causes. If so, it would be better to watch not the branches, but the root, the first cause of causes, ARCHE.
Aha, when we go on a long trip, it's easier just to turn off the main bulb than to check all the gas appliances in our house.
However, the problem is, what the ARCHE is, the main valve of the world. None of the unreliable gods can be the ARCHE. From here, philosophy began, separated from religion. ARCHE should be something that defines even the fates of gods.
I see, if they had had a mighty god like Judaism, they would have regarded the god as the ARCHE of the world. However, the ancient Greeks had no reliable gods, so they had to explore reality for themselves. Even junk gods are sometimes useful.
Since we have no authority enough to trust, we think things out for ourselves. This is the origin of philosophy. Worship someone, even if it is a philosopher, that is not philosophy.
So after all, what is the ARCHE of the world?
Thales proposed that water might be it. Water flows and makes waves by itself. It changes the form of mountains, valleys, and coasts. It makes plants bud, bloom, and bear fruit. Animals also die if they can't take it.
Then, we only have to research water, right?
Nay, it was just a hypothesis. The world would be a polyhedron, so if you change the aspect, it looks different, and the ARCHE may also be something else there. Actually, after Thales, many philosophers thought about the world, and proposed various things, as the ARCHE. Some said, it should be fire. Some think, love makes the world move. Moreover, some insist, the world is made of numbers.
Aha, they are the worldviews.
A worldview is characterized by the ARCHE that it insists on. You've heard the term blah-bah-ism, right? It is the philosophy that recognizes the blah-blah as the ARCHE of the world.
Whoa, there are so many worldviews with original ARCHEs, like capitalism, feminism, minimalism, etc. But if so, in the end I wonder with which ARCHE should I manage the world?
You know, when fires, to the firemen, but when incidents, to the police, don't you? Naturally, the resources needed to manage a problem differ depending on the time and situation. Every philosophy has its strengths and weaknesses, pros and cons. So it is important to know the characteristics of each, and use the best of them properly.
Namely, no almighty philosophy exists for any situation, right?
Maybe. Therefore, we have to learn all of them.
It would have been nice if philosophy also had only one ARCHE to know it all at once.